Hello everyone, Weather Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Tuesday evening, April 1, 2025. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video. I'd really appreciate it if you guys get this video up to 100 likes. If you don't know by now, that's how the YouTube algorithm works. We all like the video and then the YouTube algorithm pushes the video out to more persons who are in the path of these tropical systems so that we can keep everyone safe, especially during the peak months of Atlantic hurricane season, that's August through to October. Share this video with your friends, your co-workers, relatives, and even your church brethren, and subscribe if you haven't yet done so. Please ensure that you all utilize the progress bar that's located at the bottom of the video, as well as the timestamps that are located not only in the comment section but the video description, so that you can skip to the points in the video that you want to see the most in order to save time, because we know that the videos over here with the Jamaica can be very long. Leave a comment down below letting me know what the that's been like in your area recently. Also feel free to ask any weather related questions that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. Alright, so we're going to be looking at what the US Climate Prediction Center's Global Tropics Hazards Outlook is showing for the time period from April 9 to April 15, as well as April 16 to April 22. And as usual, we're going to be focusing our attention right here across the entire Atlantic Basin. And for the time period from April 9 to April 15, we can clearly see some greens. It's the low end of the scale in terms of greens. That represents at least a 50% chance of above average rainfall probability, extending from Central America into the Greater Antilles, the Bahamas, extending all the way up into portions of Bermuda. Will that actually verify? Only time will tell. And we can see that for the time period from April 16 to April 22, we don't have much of anything across the entire Atlantic Basin. Either way, we know that what the US Climate Prediction Center usually posts isn't set in stone. We can clearly see that the forecaster for today is long. That's the name of the forecaster. And we just have to stay updated to see exactly what occurs. Will week 2 of April be actually more moist or wetter than the week that we're in now? We'll see. And I'll definitely be here to keep it posted before it occurs. Taking a look at the Euro and the GFS supercomputer model runs that came out today. As usual, we're going to be focusing our attention on the time step right here at the top as we go to the next 168 hours. That's the next 7 days. And we're going to be focusing our attention on Jamaica right here as we look for all of this that we see on the key on the right. That's the reds, the oranges, the yellows, and the greens represents inches of rainfall. So let's see what's going to be taking place. As we head into Wednesday morning, 12Z as a matter of fact, which is actually 7 a.m. we see an abundance of rainfall in the greens, even some slight yellows in and around the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico. We also see some moisture to the south of Jamaica, some of it across eastern parishes according to the latest Euro. Then by the end of the day on Wednesday, we see that rainfall mainly across sections of some central and western parishes. What does the GFS show for the same time period? Wednesday morning has the same rainfall affecting portions of the Leeward Islands, Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic, section of the waters to the south of Jamaica and eastern Jamaica. Then by Wednesday afternoon, we see that rainfall more so across northern and western parishes than central and western parishes. Let's see what Thursday has in store for us according to the latest Euro. We see that on Thursday morning, 7 a.m., we see moisture to the south of us, some of this moisture across eastern Jamaica. Then by Thursday afternoon, we don't really see much of anything. This is 18 degrees actually 1 p.m. We do see some moisture across the western end. Let us see what the latest GFS shows. 7 a.m. on Thursday shows some rainfall to the south of us across eastern parishes. Then by 1 p.m. on Thursday, we see rainfall across eastern Jamaica, northern and western parishes. Very interesting. Let's see what Friday has in store for us. On Friday morning, we see rainfall to our west, rainfall to the north. Then Friday afternoon has rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes according to the latest Euro. GFS, on the other hand, has rainfall to the east of us, while across eastern parishes, rainfall to the north and west of us. Then Friday afternoon has that rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. Definitely similar to what the Euro was showing. Then as we head into Saturday morning, what do we see? Not really much of anything on land, but we do see a string of moisture extending from the waters to the north of Jamaica into portions of the Cayman Islands, western Cuba. We can also see some moisture across the Dominican Republic extending into the Leeward Islands. You can even see some moisture extending from Trinidad and Tobago all the way to the north of the ABC Islands and passing to the south of Jamaica. Then by the end of the day on Saturday, we see that rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. What does the GFS show for the same time period? On Saturday morning, we see that same moisture across portions of the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, the Leeward Islands, sections of Trinidad and Tobago, extending to the north of the ABC Islands. And then, by Saturday afternoon, we see the rainfall mainly across central and western parishes. Very interesting. Let us see what the latest Euro is showing for Sunday morning. On Sunday morning, we see that rainfall across eastern parishes. On Sunday afternoon, we see that rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. What does the latest GFS show? Sunday morning has that rainfall to the northeast of us. We also see some rainfall across the Cayman Islands. Then by Sunday afternoon, we see that rainfall across northern and western parishes. Very interesting. What does Monday have in store for us according to the latest Euro? Monday morning has rainfall across eastern parishes, a string of moisture passing to the south of Hispaniola to the south of Jamaica. Very interesting. What does Monday afternoon have in store for us? We see rainfall in the greens across the eastern, central, and western parishes. What does the latest GFS show? The latest GFS shows some rainfall to the northwest of us, the rainfall to the northeast of us, and south of us on Monday morning. And then on Monday afternoon, really not much of anything being shown. Then we're going to be stopping it right here at the end of 168 hours, which is actually valid for Tuesday, April 8th. And we see a lot of moisture associated with a possible cold front extending from the east coast of the US down into Florida, the eastern Gulf, all the way down into Central America. We also see some moisture to the south of Jamaica. What does the latest GFS show for the same time period? Let's see. We see that moisture that the Euro was showing associated with a possible cold front extending across the waters to the east of the US at that time, extending down to Florida, the eastern Gulf, Central America, even portions of the northern Bahamas, Cuba. And we also see some moisture to the south and west of Jamaica. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. And if we take a look at the total accumulated precipitation forecast maps from both the Euro and the GFS, clearly we can see that the most in the way of rainfall is going to be wherever we have those dark reds, purples into the pinks. That represents what we see here on the key on the right. That's the 2 inches of rainfall to 3 to 4, even 5 inches of rainfall across sections of northern South America. We're talking about Guyana, Suriname, French Guyana, section of Trinidad and Tobago, Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica. And we can clearly see that it's not only the Euro model that's showing that, but even the GFS. So those areas could definitely pick up some isolated flash flooding concerns. So we hope that the residents are taking the precautions that they're not that drastically affected. We can see the greens into the yellows, oranges, and reds representing from 0.1 of an inch of rainfall all the way up to an inch of rainfall for the other areas that weren't mentioned. We're talking about Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Barbados, St. Lucia, Martinique, Dominica, Guadeloupe, Montserrat, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Martin, Antigua and Barbuda, Anguilla, the US and British Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Haiti, the Turks and Caicos, the Bahamas, Cuba, the Cayman Islands, Florida, Central America, even sections of Belize, the Yucatan, section of Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, and we can clearly see that both models are showing the same thing. Even the ABC Islands might even pick up some rainfall as well as the Cayman Islands. So it's going to be interesting. Clearly it's very colorful. We're going to be getting on some amount of rainfall within the next 7 days, so stay tuned. Alright, so we're going to be looking at Jamaica's total accumulated precipitation forecast for the next 7 days. And we can clearly see that the entire island is engulfed in blues and greens. And keep in mind that this is showing all the rainfall that's expected from now, April 1, all the way up to April 8th. And we can see the rainfall that represents anywhere from 1 millimeter all the way up into the greens and the yellows that represents all the way up to 42 millimeters of rainfall out in the west according to the latest Euro. GFS is showing up to 47 millimeters of rainfall out in the east, and we also see the yellows out in the east on the Euro too. So it's very interesting that the eastern and western ends of the island are showing the brunt or the total in the most in the way of rainfall over the next 7 days. And we know that rainfall that's going to be affecting portion of eastern Jamaica will mainly be affecting the island in the morning, while central and western parishes during the afternoon when we have that daytime heating and cloud buildup for sure. And whatever happens, I'll definitely be here to keep you posted with what occurs. So stay tuned on our other social media platforms. Taking a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening, we can see an area of low pressure attached to the blue and red line right here associated with the frontal system across the eastern and southern US. We can also see the blue spike line right here associated with the frontal system, and the trough that it has attached to it to the north of the main development region. And we can see a ridge of high pressure right here to the northwest of it that we know is responsible for sending all of the easterly trade winds across the main development region into the Caribbean. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before the sun went down, we can make out all of these entities. The clouds associated with the low pressure and the frontal system definitely bring some overcast skies, if not some rainfall, to a portion of the southern US and the waters to the east of the US as we speak. We can make out the line of clouds associated with that frontal system and the trough that it has induced right here to the north of the main development region. And we know that there's a ridge of high pressure right in here that is responsible for sending all of these easterly trade winds across the main development region into the Caribbean, and some of these low level to mid level clouds definitely have some moisture within them as they push through the Caribbean. We'll be talking more about the rest of the Caribbeans a little later on. Let us focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today, Tuesday, April 1, 2025. It was stated in yesterday's video that we would have received some amount of isolated rainfall across eastern parishes on Tuesday morning, also affecting sections of some central and western parishes during Tuesday afternoon. We know eastern parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Surrey, like Portland, St. Thomas, Kingston, St. Andrew. Central parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Middlesex, like St. Anne, St. Mary, Manchester, Clarendon, and St. Catherine. While western parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Cornwall, like Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, Westmoreland, and St. Elizabeth. And what ended up happening? Although no post was made for the morning, I definitely woke up this morning to some amount of rainfall in my part of St. Thomas. The ground was soaking wet, to signal that I definitely got in on a fair share of some isolated rainfall in my portions. I guess that definitely verified for the eastern parishes rainfall that was predicted. Then by around 1:01 p.m, the live camera, the panoramic city view as a matter of fact, from See Jamaica's YouTube channel was showing that we're indeed getting in on some amount of rainfall across portions of Kingston and St. Andrew right here. Look at the rainfall that was taking place. Some light to moderate rainfall at that, looking down towards New Kingston, eastern or northeastern St. Andrew in general. Definitely gotten on some decent rainfall to cool down the temperatures, just as predicted. And even by around 3:45 p.m, the visible satellite images were posted highlighting the clouds bring some overcast skies, if not some isolated showers, mainly across sections of some central and western parishes, just as predicted. But it was more so south central and southwestern parishes that got in on the action, and we even saw the sparkling yellow dots in there that represent the lightning strikes, if not lightning flashes, across some of these areas. So anywhere from St. Andrew westward, St. Catherine, Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, maybe sections of Hanover, southern St. James, southwestern Trelawney might have gotten in on the overcast skies, if not some isolated showers. And we can even see the cloud tops being sheared out towards the east by that upper level wind shear once we've got that convection, just as predicted. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images of Jamaica before we lost the sunlight even better, we can see it even more in HD. Look at the upper level clouds being streaked up towards the east, and even as we're losing the sunlight, we can see that there were still some amount of clouds bring some overcast skies, if not some isolated shores, across portions of some central and western parishes as they quickly were pushing off towards the west. And we can see the infrared right here even better, showing the convection that took place. We see the blues, we see the greens, we see the yellows, and that represents the high cold cloud tops being sheared off towards the east by that upper level wind shear from the west, just as predicted when we had that convection. And clearly most of the convection took place across sections of Westmoreland and St. Elizabeth. Let me know if you heard some thunder today in your area. And if we take a look at the live camera from See Jamaica's YouTube channel, let me see right here, showing an advertisement on me right here. Alright, the live camera is actually showing some amount of decent rainfall taking place before the map glitched out. Definitely glitched out. We can see right here the Bagwalk Gorge at around 4:57 to 5 p.m. definitely soaking wet. They were definitely getting on some light to moderate rainfall right there. You can see the people in their vehicles going about their business. Definitely soaking conditions, soaking the bridge in general, so people are definitely taking their time as they cross the bridge. And we can see the water, well, the rainwater falling into the river as usual. Nothing significant in terms of bad weather taking place, just some late afternoon isolated showers. That is definitely well needed to keep the water flowing in the pipes. And if we take a look at the total accumulated precipitation for the past 24 hours from the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology website, this map does indeed paint a picture of how we might have had that rainfall today, definitely across sections of some eastern, central, and western parishes. But do we have any comments confirming what the weather was like in our subscribers or our followers area for today? Let's see. On our YouTube page, we have at least 3 comments here. We have Active posting 3 hours ago rainfall in his area. Novlet stating had some lovely showers in Manchester. Do we have anything on our, let's say, Instagram page? Let's see. Here we go. We have Felicia underscore Fendi stating raining in Clarendon on and off. We have Nicely Laverne raining now. We have Marlon stating raining now as well. Anything on our Facebook page to see? Any comments? Doesn't seem like it at all. What about our Twitter page? Any comments? Alright, not really. Either way, those are the comments. But what's happening right now in terms of weather? Let us reload the very latest still image from the Weather Nerds website and see what's taking place. The very latest still image is as of 0005 UTC, which is actually 7:05 p.m. So this just came out 5, 10, 15 minutes ago, considering that it's 7:20 p.m. right now. And we're not really seeing much of anything across the island. Just some isolated spotty clouds right here across the southwest, as well as the waters to our southwest. But do these clouds actually have rainfall within them? Unfortunately, we won't know because Cuban Doppler radar seems to have glitched out this morning, April 1st. And the first day of April, we can clearly see glitched out at 9:40 a.m., which is actually 8:40 a.m. Jamaica time, where we saw some moderate to heavy rainfall in the greens and the yellows across the waters to the north of Portland, right there. But regarding the Guantanamo Bay Cuban Naval Radar imagery, what's taking place right now? Let's reload this so that we have the very latest to show. You can clearly see some rainfall to the north and west of Guantanamo, some light to moderate to some slightly heavy rainfall at that. You also see some isolated shores across the western peninsula of Haiti. Can't really make out anything across Jamaica. But if we take a look at the Cayman radar, let's reload this so that we have the very latest to show regarding the Cayman radar. Alright, so we can clearly see some isolated shores across portions of southern Cuba. You also see some isolated heat or mist shores right here to the west of the Cayman Islands. Can't really make out much of anything across Jamaica though. What if we switch gears and take a look at what's happening right here on the Halfway Tree live camera? You can definitely see a very busy Halfway Tree as usual. People walking about, going about their business, people in their vehicles going about their business. Definitely dry conditions being experienced as we speak, and that should continue throughout the night. Taking a look at the temperatures right now, we can say we have 26 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 26 degrees Celsius in Kingston, and by about 4 a.m. on Wednesday, temperature should dip down to about 24 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 23 degrees Celsius in Kingston. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow. This map from the GFS is valid for 18Z on Wednesday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Wednesday. And we can see Jamaica right here embedded in some yellows that we know represent to 1 degree Celsius above normal temperatures. I know the normal temperature for the month of April across Jamaica is around 88 degrees Fahrenheit. And when that's converted to degrees Celsius, that's around 31.1 degrees Celsius. So we should be receiving anywhere from 31 to 32 degrees Celsius at most for Jamaica's temperature on Wednesday. And unfortunately, we have some maintenance outage advisories here from my JPS online Twitter page to highlight. We know that we have to highlight these because we know that when we have power outages somewhere across the island, it can definitely make the heat feel even worse because we don't have our fan or our AC to cool us down. So if you have friends or relatives who live or work in these areas, or if you live or work in these areas, let the people know that a power outage is coming their way on a Wednesday, April 2, 2025. And we're referring to Standfast, Retreat, Enfield, Retirement, Keith, Lawrence Park, Queen Height, Tickets, Home Castle, all in the parish of Manchester from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. We're also talking about Over River, Sign, Orange, Rocky Road, Dovecote, Irwindale, Moore Park, all in the parish of St. James from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. We're also referring to Troy to Warsop in the parish of Trelawney from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. And finally we have Salt River Road in St. Catherine from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And we have some tips right here to beat the heat as usual. It states here, when outside, seek shade. Eat fresh, try eating cold food such as salads and fruits. Rest, make sure you get enough sleep and rest if you're feeling tired. Soak, take a cool shower or bath to help you cool down. And I cannot stress enough the importance of staying hydrated throughout the day. Even if you're not thirsty, put away those sugar drinks and drink water instead. Taking a look at the dry air map, we know that dry air is represented by what we see here on the key on the bottom. That's the yellows, the oranges, the reds, and the whites within those rays. And we can see the abundance of dry air across the entire Atlantic basin. We know the dry air is responsible for keeping the atmosphere stable, making it harder for it to rain, making it harder for us to get storms or hurricanes. And we can see some breaks in the dry air wherever we have the yellows and the blues. That's the low end of the scale in terms of dry air. That's the yellows. The blues represent the moisture, and we can see an abundance of moisture across portions of the Greater Antilles section of the Eastern Pacific into the intertropical convergence zone over here. And that's what we want to see. We want to see the moist air, that we have some rainfall to keep water in our pipes for sure. But regarding the Saharan dust forecast for 18 UTC on Wednesday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Wednesday, we can see the browns represent the Saharan dust across portions of Europe, Asia, Africa, extending across portions of the main development region. Very interesting. This looks like a vigorous-ish kind of plume, and it's possibly pushing westward. But this is where it's going to be by 1 p.m. on Wednesday. And clearly we can see that much of the western hemisphere is in the clear, northern South America, the Caribbean, as well as North America in the clear. But all of these browns are definitely going to be making it to the Caribbean, or before the weekend. So it actually plays out. Will it actually keep the intensity we see up to 66, 25, or will it actually lower in intensity back to the low end of the scale in the light browns right here? We don't want the Saharan dust at all, because the Saharan dust is responsible for making the sky hazy, not to mention trigger some amount of respiratory illnesses in some persons. So at least for tomorrow, we're grateful that that's the forecast for the Saharan dust. Let's see how it actually plays out by the end of the week. Regarding the wave forecast for tomorrow, not much change at all. Still seeing the purples, the pinks. That represents anywhere from 2 to 3 meter wave heights across much of the Caribbean. Even the Gulf's western areas getting in on some of that. While we see some of the light blues into dark blues, that represents anywhere from 0.5 meter wave height to 1.5 meter wave heights, extending from the eastern Gulf into the Bahamas and northwestern Caribbean. But regarding Jamaica's wave forecast for tomorrow, to 1.5 meter wave heights on the north coast, up to 1.9 meter wave height on the south coast. The southeastern side seems to be getting a bit more in the wave heights. Let's see, will it load? Doesn't seem like it wants to load and tell me what the wave is like. Okay, here we go, 2 meter wave heights right here to the south of St. Thomas. So definitely some high wave heights, all courtesy of the winds that are expected. Look at the wind, some bright greens into the yellows. That represents anywhere from 15 to 25, maybe even gusting to 30 knot winds. Definitely gonna be windy tomorrow. And some of these winds could definitely kick up the dust for sure. You can see the flow from east to west across the Caribbean, curving northward as we head into the Gulf, more for southeast of the flow over there. And it's definitely going to be windy for sure all across the entire Caribbean into the Gulf, as you can see here. But regarding Jamaica's wind forecast for tomorrow, the winds clearly coming in from the east, averaging 20 to 25 knots, north coast 21 knots, south coast 20 knots. It's definitely gonna be windy for the most part. Look at the GFS, not much different, about the same thing. And we see where the air is going to be piling up clearly across second of some central and western parishes. So that's where we could have the clouds building. Then we have that daytime heating causing some amount of rainfall, if not some convection, and we still have that upper level wind coming in from the west. So we could get a repeat of what happened today when we had those high cold cloud tops being streaked off towards the east by that upper level wind shear. But regarding the rainfall forecast for tomorrow, this map from the Euro and this map from the GFS are both showing 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 8 a.m. Jamaica time. And what do we see on both maps? Some blues represent rainfall across Second St. Thomas and Portland. Very interesting. Will that actually occur? We just have to wait to find out. Then by about 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 2 p.m. Jamaica time, we see that there's blues that represent rainfall across Eastern, Central, and Western parishes on the Euro. The GFS, yes, Eastern Jamaica, but it's more so Western Jamaica and inland areas of some central parishes. And the GFS is going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. Either way, if you live in Western Jamaica, Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, Northern St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, you could be in for some amount of rainfall. If you live in the far east, Eastern St. Thomas, Eastern Portland, you could be in for some amount of rainfall too. So ensure that you have your rain gear with you. And we clearly see that even the total accumulated precipitation forecast maps from the Euro and the GFS are adamant that it's going to be raining somewhere in Jamaica tomorrow. The Euro going up to 0.35 of an inch of rainfall in the east, even more than that in the west. GFS going up to 0.25 of an inch of rainfall in the east, up to 0.35 of an inch of rainfall in the northwest. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out, and we'll definitely take it. We're now in the month of April. We're starting to get in on some rain activity in Kingston, whose bar graph is being shown right here at the top. We usually receive up to what? I think this is about 35, if not close to 40 millimeters of rainfall for the month of April in Kingston. In Montego Bay, it's what, up to 3 point maybe 7 or 3, almost 4 inches of rainfall, close to 100 millimeters of rainfall in Montego Bay for the month of April. And I'd like for you to keep in mind that if you'd like to find out what your specific parish usually receives in terms of rainfall for the month of April or for the entire year, you can visit weatherandclimate.com, and that helps out to show that information. And you can use this nice graphic right here that converts rainfall from inches to millimeters. Now that 1 inch of rainfall is about the same as 25 millimeters of rainfall, so you can do the calculations yourself. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let us focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So as stated, we have some low level to mid level clouds being steered from east to west, all courtesy of the ridge of high pressure to the north. Definitely bring some isolated showers, sections of the Leeward and Windward Islands, section of Hispaniola, Cuba right there. And we can confirm with the Doppler radar imagery of the northeastern Caribbean. Look at the greens that represent some light to moderate rainfall passing through Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts, the US and British Virgin Islands, section of Puerto Rico. And even if we load these images from earlier today, we can see that it was definitely the order of the day throughout the day. Definitely some rainfall passed through Dominica, Guadeloupe, Montserrat, St. Kitts and Nevis, section of Antigua and Barbuda, Western Puerto Rico definitely getting lashed as well. And looking at the Barbados radar, we see something similar, some hit or miss isolated showers passing through. We also see some of that passing to the south of there, to the north of there, into portion of Martinique, section of St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, section of Tobago right there, maybe even as far southwest as Trinidad. And if we take a look at the weather wave Doppler radar images, we can also see that rainfall that took place across section of Cuba, sections of Honduras and Guatemala, section of Colombia, western Venezuela, eastern Venezuela, section of Guyana, Suriname as well. And regarding where the rainfall is expected within the next 24 hours, both maps here from the year and the GFS are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Wednesday. And we can clearly see that the most rainfall of the next 24 hours should be across portions of northern South America, Colombia, western, southern and eastern Venezuela, Guyana, Suriname, French Guyana, Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, Haiti, Dominican Republic, southeastern Cuba, section of Guadeloupe and the Leeward Islands getting in some of the action too. You can also see some rainfall in store for section of Costa Rica, Panama, eastern Honduras, section of western Honduras, El Salvador, southern Guatemala, section of the Cayman Islands, southern Florida, section of Cuba, sections of US and British Virgin Islands, section of Anguilla, St. Martin, St. Kitts and Nevis, Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, Martinique getting in on some of the action too. And we can clearly see that both the Euro and the GFS models are in consensus with this forecast. I know that when they're in consensus like this, the chances of actually happening are much higher. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.